The sterile hallways of St. Margaret's Hospital always felt eerie after dark, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead seemed to blur. It was my job as a night shift nurse to tend to the few patients who remained in the silent, dimly lit wards. The hospital was slated for closure, a relic of a bygone era, its corridors echoing with memories of suffering and healing. Little did I know that my nightly routine would lead me to encounter a presence that defied explanation. One moonless night, as the clock struck midnight, I received an urgent call from Ward C. A patient had taken a turn for the worse. I hastily donned my scrubs and made my way down the cold, drafty corridor. The flickering overhead lights cast dancing shadows on the walls, making me feel like a character in an old horror film. I pushed open the heavy door to Ward C and was met with an icy gust of wind that seemed to emanate from nowhere. The patient, an elderly man named Mr. Thompson, lay still in his bed, his labored breathing the only sound in the room. I rushed to his side, checking his vitals and administering medication. As I worked, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching me. Just as I was about to finish, a soft, whispered voice brushed against my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. "He won't make it through the night." I spun around, my heart racing, but there was no one there. I chided myself for letting my imagination run wild in the midst of a stressful situation. I stayed by Mr. Thompson's side for a while, monitoring his condition and trying to shake off the unsettling feeling that had settled over me. As the minutes ticked by, the air grew colder, and the room seemed to darken despite the flickering lights. I heard footsteps, soft but deliberate, echoing down the hallway just outside the door. My pulse quickened as the footsteps drew nearer. I swallowed hard and forced myself to step out into the hallway. The corridor was empty, and the silence was suffocating. I walked cautiously, my footsteps echoing against the linoleum floor. Each step seemed to reverberate through the air, as if announcing my presence to whatever unseen presence might be lurking. I reached the end of the hallway and peered around the corner, my heart pounding in my chest. There, bathed in an eerie, pale light, stood a figure. It was a woman in a nurse's uniform, her form partially transparent. Her eyes, hollow and empty, stared into the distance. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Was this a hallucination brought on by exhaustion and fear? I stepped closer, my curiosity overpowering my fear. "Hello?" I called out, my voice quivering. The figure turned slowly, her gaze fixing on me. The corners of her lips lifted in a haunting smile, sending a chill down my spine. "Hello, child?" she whispered, her voice echoing with a strange mix of sadness and longing. "I've been waiting for you." I couldn't tear my eyes away from her. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice barely audible. "I am Nurse Evelyn," she replied, her form shimmering in the dim light. "I once cared for patients in this hospital, long before it became a shadow of its former self. Now I wander these halls, unable to find peace." "Why?" I asked, my curiosity overwhelming my fear. She sighed, a melancholic sound that seemed to hang in the air. "There are souls trapped here, lost and forgotten. I was unable to save them, and now I am bound to this place, tormented by their pain." I felt a wave of empathy wash over me. "Is there anything I can do to help?" Nurse Evelyn's eyes softened. "There is a ritual, a way to release these souls from their suffering, but it comes at a great cost." I hesitated, my mind racing. What do I need to do? The ghostly nurse's gaze bore into mine. "You must take their pain upon yourself, carry their burdens and guide them to the light. It will be a heavy burden, one that may consume you." I looked back at the silent, empty hallway, thinking of the countless souls who had suffered within these walls. My heart ached at the thought of their torment, and a resolve formed within me. "I'll do it," I said firmly. Nurse Evelyn nodded, a mixture of gratitude and sorrow in her eyes. "Thank you, child. Your selflessness will not be forgotten." And so, I embarked on a journey to free the trapped souls of St. Margaret's Hospital. The days and nights blurred together as I worked tirelessly, my own strength fading as I absorbed the pain and suffering of the lost souls. Nurse Evelyn remained by my side, guiding me through the ritual and offering me comfort when the weight became too much to bear. As the final soul found release and the hospital's halls fell silent, Nurse Evelyn turned to me with a sad smile. "You have done a great service, dear one. But remember, the boundary between the living and the dead is fragile. Be cautious, for the darkness that lingers here can easily consume you." With those words, she faded away, leaving me alone in the empty hospital. The building was slated for closure, a relic of a bygone era, but its corridors no longer echoed with suffering and pain. Instead, they held the memory of a nurse who had once walked among the living, offering solace to those in need, even beyond the grave. And so, as I walked out of St. Margaret's Hospital, I carried with me the knowledge that even in the darkest of places, there is a glimmer of light, and that sometimes the line between the living and the dead is not as clear as it seems.